Hello everybody, welcome back to High Ground. My name is Tanner, and today we're going to be doing predictions for the finals of the Montreal Major for Rainbow Six Siege. You have just under a day to get those predictions in, plenty of time I think. We only need to predict as of now the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the grand final. We don't have to predict those until we know the actual matchups. So that is pretty nice. Like if you predict FaZe and BDS maybe to win here, if both of them end up losing, then obviously you'd get this one wrong if you were predicting ahead of time. But now we get to wait and see. So even if you get both these wrong, you have the potential to get this one right. Let's do a little bit of recap on how the predictions are going so far in case you've only been watching the prediction videos, not the actual recap videos. Play-ins, I got 5 of the 8 possible points. I got G2 and Black Dragons in the correct position, and I had Chiefs in the incorrect position, so 5 out of 8 points. If I'd gone with my original predictions, or if you'd gone with my original predictions, you'd be on 6 out of 8 points. I had Falcons here and CL4L here. And honestly, if I'd gone with the sort of non-cope version of my original predictions, I could have had the full 8 out of 8 points because I would have had Falcons here and I would have had Chiefs here. But it is what it is. And then in phase number 2, and one thing I want to say about phase 2, it is unfortunate. I've seen some people post that they got a ton of points here. I think they're definitely in the minority. But because we didn't know the format from the get-go, and yes, we did know that it was Swiss, we knew it was first to 3 wins, we know which matches were best of 1s or best of 3s, but what we didn't know was the seeding system for the first few rounds. It's different than it was in Manchester, and there was a really popular simulator that I showed in previous videos that helped predict that event. Like you could say, if this happened, this happened, this happened, what would the next round look like? For this event, we were using that same thing, but it was actually a different system. So the round 2 matchups were totally different than we were expecting, although there were actually a lot of upsets in round number 1. Anyways, so a little bit of an excuse there. I don't think it mattered that much because of how many upsets there were in that first round, but still, it did chalk things a little bit. And as far as my personal predictions, I had FaZe, Secret, and Space Station correct in the correct position, so that's 6 points. And then I had BDS, Sonics, and W7M correct, but in the wrong bracket. So that's 3 more points. So 9 points there, plus the 5 points from phase number 1 is total of 14 out of the possible 31. There's still 7 points able to be earned. So we could get up to 21. Unfortunately, that's still shy of the Battle Pass, but I don't think very many people at all will be getting the Battle Pass. Maybe a small handful just happened to guess correctly, but I mean, honestly, don't let them fool you. If they got 25, a lot of it was luck. It wasn't like that they just snowballed. That's just not how it is, to be honest. Let's go back to the finals and let's talk about it. So I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up because I think the tougher ones are the ones at the top. Falcons up against Virtus Pro. I think there's a pretty clear favorite here. Virtus Pro is definitely the expected team to win, but Falcons, they have been sort of bet against the entire time. Again, I did originally have them going through phase number 1 at 2-0, but then I changed my prediction, unfortunately. And then in phase number 2, I had them not advancing. I think I even had them at 0-3. So them making it through a 3-1 is a really defiant statement, I suppose, from them. It feels like it's the end of the road, but maybe they will continue to defy expectations. But I do feel like Virtus Pro is the pretty easy pick here. This feels like the easiest one to predict, but again, if we get this one wrong, could be looking a little bit foolish. So Space Station versus W7M, and the rest of these, we do have a little bit of history to go off of, some of them more than others. Falcons versus Virtus Pro. These two teams have never played each other before, so not much to look at. But for Space Station W7M, we have a little bit, just a little dab of history. These two orgs have clashed a fair number of times, but most of these are for the old W7M roster that is now Furia. The only meaningful data we have is when they met in Esports World Cup and they played a best of 1. That was a 7-3 victory for W7M. Don't forget that in that event, they made it all the way to the grand final. So 7-3 victory on Cafe, solid win. I mean, based off this, I think W7M are the favorite, but of course, we can't base it just off of that. Based off their tournament performances, I would also say W7M is the favorite. You know, they're the 2nd seed coming into this Space Station, or the 7th seed. W7M, they didn't take any losses in Swiss, and thus no losses in the event thus far, because they weren't in phase 1. Same thing for Space Station, they weren't in phase 1, but they have taken 2 losses. So I'm gonna vote Space Station here, and maybe that's a little bit of a coat pick. I am going to recommend that you pick W7M, but I personally am picking Space Station. So if you want to copy my predictions, feel free. I am predicting the team that I want to win more because I think they can win, even if they're the underdogs. I want them to win, and I don't want to have to sort of split my desires for the team I want to win versus the team that I predicted to win. So I'm going with Space Station, But again, I think W7M is probably the better pick here. BDS versus Secret. This one's really tough because BDS, by pretty much all accounts, they are the obvious favorite. But if you look at their history, it's a lot closer than you'd expect. So they've played an absolute ton of times throughout the history of the game, but the only ones we need to look at are the last 6. These have been with pretty much their exact rosters. At some point in here, Virtue came into Secret to replace Miracle, but besides that, it's the other same 9 players. So in Malta, it was a 3-mapper, 7-5, 7-4, 8-6, so actually really close. In EUL stage number 1, it went all 15 rounds, but it went the way of BDS. They played in the Manchester Major quarterfinals, so exact same round of that tournament as this tournament that they're now playing. A little bit funny, a little bit unfortunate, depending on how you look at it. 7-5, 7-4. So BDS cleaned it up pretty easily when they met on the big stage. No overtime required, no third map required. They played each other in the Esports World Cup European Closed Qualifier, and it was an even more decisive win for BDS, 7-4, 7-3. They went on to qualify. They went on to win that event. And then in Europe this stage, they met during the regular stage, of course. 7-4 victory for Secret. A lot of people were complaining about this match because Secret went really, really hard on the shield play, really abusing the meta operators. I think BDS caught on to that a little bit afterwards. You know, they didn't quite let them do it to that extent in the next match that they would play, but still 7-4 victory for Secret here on Border. And then they met in the European League Grand Final, and this determined that BDS would be the first seed from Europe, Secret would be the second seed. 7-5 victory for Secret on Nighthaven Labs, 7-4 victory for BDS on Chalet, and then 8-7 on Skyscraper. So they went all the way to the end. They went the full distance, really close first 2 maps, and then as close as it can possibly be in the final map. Had round 15 gone the other way, it would have been Secret as the first seed from Europe. But if you actually look at the round counts here, Secret in stage number 2 is 1 round ahead. So in Nighthaven Labs, they're up by 2, and then BDS is now up by 1 after Chalet, and they're up by 2 after Skyscraper. But then if you go back here, Secret was +3 on round differential. So they've actually won 1 more round against BDS than BDS have won against them in stage number 2. Does that mean that I think Secret will win? No. I mean, I think BDS is still the pick here, but I think it's closer than a lot of people will think. I think there is still upset potential here. Secret could get it done. BDS is the team. You got to go with Shirley. At 50-50 odds, they're the clear pick. You know, if you gave me 90-10 odds, like if Secret were 10% to win, then perhaps I would be going with Secret. But at 50-50 in a situation like this, got to go with BDS. And then finally, FaZe versus Sonics. This feels like the hardest one. FaZe are the favorite. They're coming in as the first seed from phase number 2. Sonics coming in as the 8th seed from phase number 2. FaZe Clan at 3-0, they didn't drop any matches. Sonics 3-2, they dropped 2 matches. But the 2 that Sonics lost were both 6-8 losses. They were both in best of ones. They were both the first 2 matches that they played. First 2 matches with this 5 roster at an international event. And then they went on to win in 2 maps their next 3 matches. They beat G2, they beat Elevate, and they beat Liquid. So it's not like they just farmed quote-unquote easy teams. I mean, maybe you'll say that G2 was a bad team because they went 0-3, but I think a lot of that is truly because Sonics beat them so badly. They beat Elevate, who, again, probably not one of the top teams at this event, but they did seem stronger than some people expected, probably one of the stronger APAC teams. And then they beat Liquid, who a lot of people thought was one of the very best teams coming into this event. Maybe they had slightly lower opinion after Liquid got kind of smashed by Secret on maps 2 and 3. But yeah, Sonics 2-0'd all of them. They didn't go to overtime against any of them. Surf went catastrophically nuclear in the first 2 series and then still had a pretty reasonable 3rd series. So they're on 3 wins in a row, same as FaZe. Sonics wins, I think, more impressive. They were all best of 3s. They were all when they were backs against the wall, etc., etc. I think FaZe slightly the favorite here. They're certainly the more experienced roster. This 5 has been together for quite some time. Sonics, they do have Canadian, one of, if not just the most experienced player in the entire game. Rexon and Grixer are a good amount of experience. Surf and Ambi decidedly less so. They each only have 1 international event under their belts. Before this, Ambi at SI and Surf at Esports World Cup. I'm going to pick Sonics, same sort of reason as Space Asian. Again, I would say FaZe Clan is probably the safer, quote-unquote, better pick, but I wouldn't fault you for picking either of these teams here. This feels close to 50-50. There are reasons to pick either team, but again, that's what I'm going to go with. And we can look at their history here. Not very meaningful. The only one that has any real semblance of meaning is the most recent one here at 6 Invitational 2024. 8 of the 10 players that will be playing played here. So Ambi, Rexen, and Grix are from Sonics, and then all 5 of the FaZe players are the same. But bringing in Surf, and particularly bringing in Canadian, really changes the team. So it is sort of a different team. I don't think you can go based off this. This was still a close-ish 2-0, but yeah, I don't think it's the most meaningful thing ever because of the changes the team has underwent. Those are going to be my picks, and then I suppose tomorrow we'll come back. I'll probably just do a really quick video to talk about semis and then finals. As it stands now, I would probably say BDS here, Virtus Pro here, and then that's an all-European grand final, but I feel like it's hard to root against BDS. We'll see. Maybe they'll just lose here. Maybe they'll look shakier than we expect. At that point, maybe you pick a different team here and or here. But yeah, I feel like BDS is going to be the pick. Okay, that's going to do it for me. I will catch you guys next time.